Sometimes we forget why we're here. It's easy to fall off track. These help us remember.
These battle scars don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battles.
Growing up, I had a dream, something no one else could see. Tell me what it means when your faith is falling beneath your knees and you can't breathe. Everything you see reminds you of what you're not or something you won't be. You gotta take what you're given, that's how we live it. Don't be mad at the system, it's simply how we've existed. I hear a lot of people talking like they politicians or choose to be an accountant because it's safe in a business. Not because they wanna do it, just because they heard it pays. And who the fuck wants to be poor knowing that's how we've been raised? Society is getting heavy, I can feel the weight. The pressure of success is like 100 million pounds of shame. And that's the reason I'm staying up late, trying to find a way to escape the stereotypes. This day and age is making me feel like the only way I'll be happy is getting signed to a label and making money through rapping. I wanna share my emotion because this world is attacking the very principle of life that lets the people be happy. If you don't have a reason to breathe, why even live? These battle scars are impressions of everything that it is.
Don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battle scars don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battles.
Now, if I had a voice that reached 100 million people, I'd tell them there's a reason that we're all created equal. Cause some decide to be great and some decide a sequel to an average person's life is simply what they want to be. So you make your decision, all I know is what I'm given. Won't define the life I lead or the way I dwell in existence. I've seen a greater image on the walls of where I'm living, and the words twisted and scripted remind me of something written. Faith is a gift that is given down to the people. If one believes it, one receives it. It's given if it is needed. Don't ever think you're trapped in a life that you never wanted. Your options are infinite, that's some mathematical logic. I'm not saying I'm a prophet, I'm speaking for what it's worth. These lyrics define my prayers and these battle scars on my church. Not saying I'm a prophet, I'm speaking for what it's worth. These lyrics define my prayers, these battle scars on my church.
Don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battle scars don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battles.
Hi, I'm Teen Angel. This is the doctor's office where I used to get my polio shots. Yeah, that's right, shots. Nowadays, everyone's taking the new injection. Ain't that something? Now, all you gotta do is drink this groovy injection. Man, have you got it soft. In my day, we didn't think nothing could beat out a shot. But we was wrong. I was born too soon.
Your baby should have his first polio vaccine when he's 8 to 12 weeks old. Call your health department or family doctor today.
When we left Thornell, he was en route back here to the General Motors plant to join the negotiations that started at about 1 o'clock this afternoon inside the GM plant. The only reaction thus far by the General Motors management has been one of surprise. They're surprised that the strike vote was ever even taken.
At approximately 7:35 this morning, tragedy struck on Chicago's south side, and at this hour, the death and injury toll from a major train collision continues to rise. The last car of the first train was virtually sawed in half. A 3-alarm fire was put into effect, and all available ambulances began shuttling victims from the wreck to several nearby hospitals: Michael Reese, Billings, Mercy, the University of Illinois Hospital, South Chicago Hospital. At this time, the death toll stands at 33, with more than 200 injured.
Where do we find Mr. Nixon today? We find him hiding in the White House, sitting on top of his gallopole. He has not had the courage at any point in this campaign to appear at a single factory, on a single campus, in a single union hall, and he doesn't have the courage or the competence to face his opponent in public debate before the people of this country. I think he remembers what John Kennedy did to him in those last debates. But if he came out and faced the issues honestly, here are some of the questions that I would like to ask you. Mr. Nixon, did you know about the burglary of our Democratic National Headquarters at the Watergate? Did you know, Mr. Nixon, about the wiretapping of our phones?
Well, okay, everyone. As I like to do, I give you some little snippets of what was going on at that time in October 1972. I found it very interesting that the whole Watergate scandal was starting then. Yet Nixon was, in fact, reelected. That was McGovern talking there. It didn't really blow up until, I think, 1973, but I guess we will be getting to that. As usual, I do encourage anyone who's watching on Facebook, if you go over to YouTube, it really helps my view hours. Though, of course, if that's something you don't want to do, I'm not going to tell you what to do, libertarians. But if it's something you would consider, it would greatly help me, because views on Facebook do not count towards the YouTube algorithm. So we're going to get right into it. This is actually a somewhat short issue of LP News. It's only 2 pages, and there's no political perspective in it, so I don't think we'll even have a bonus episode for October. But the reason it's so short is they did a double issue for November, December. So the next one will be a bit longer. So let's get right into it, shall we? Let me put this up on the screen if I can. Here we go. But I just need to get ready to flip the pages. So, okay, campaign news. As you can see, there is that picture of Tony Nathan there with her poofy hairdo. I just love those hairdos of that time. So it starts out, Tony Nathan visits 9 states on a 4-week tour. For some reason, I had the Gilligan's Island theme going through my head. Was it a 3-hour tour? Okay. The American people were given a large dose of libertarian ideas in October thanks to the tireless efforts of John Hospers and Tony Nathan. Tony spent virtually the entire month on the road, campaigning in 9 states across the country, while Dr. Hospers has been flying up and down the West Coast, speaking to various groups and giving interviews to radio and TV stations and numerous newspaper reporters. Tony left Oregon, and that's where she was from, in case you do not know, on October 3rd, and flew to Dallas, where the Texas LP arranged several speeches and interviews. Sorry, I got a little bit of a cold. Trying to keep my nose from running. Oh yeah, I already said that. Then on to Houston, where she spent 5 days at the National Convention of Theta Sigma Phi, the Association of Women in Journalism, talking about libertarianism to women in media from all over the country. While in Houston, she also held 2 press conferences and was interviewed at length on several radio programs. I really like that we were getting quite a bit of media in 1972. In some ways, it seems like more media than we're getting now. I'm going to make sure I don't want to lose my crown. That would be sad. Next to Philadelphia, where LP chairman Bill Cohen, wonder if anyone is familiar with him. I believe he had authored one of the contenders for the statements of principles, if I am remembering correctly. And that reminded me that there was something, well, I probably will end up doing a quick bonus on something I found. I'm going to continue, sorry, I got distracted. Okay, Bill Cohen had set up a dizzying schedule of appearances. Media coverage in Philadelphia was excellent. then to Massachusetts and New Hampshire, where she spoke at several colleges, including Harvard and MIT. Alrighty, so yeah, whirlwind going on here. On to New York, where she met with leaders of the booming New York Party and again received good media exposure. Following that, 2 days in Michigan speaking to student audiences, and then 2 days in Albuquerque, where she again received good media coverage. So this is really getting around for 1972. Next up, Colorado Springs, where she spoke at the Colorado LP State Yay Us. Her talk was given prominent coverage on both Colorado Springs and Denver television and made the front page of the Colorado Springs Sun. And then it says in parentheses, and I've got some extra material to show you guys here. So she got the front page of the Colorado Springs Sun, which I've never heard of. And it says, the Lefebvre influenced Gazette ignored her. And I'm probably mispronouncing. I think it's Lefebvre or Lefebvre, whatever. You know me and last names. Now, I have, again, as I said before, a subscription to newspapers.com. So I went and looked for that front page article of the Colorado Springs Sun. That newspaper does not exist in the newspapers.com archive, which is really, really unusual. So I have a feeling it was somewhat obscure. But interestingly, you would think the Lefebvre, who was a non-voting, like a very strenuous non-voting anarchist, very, very hostile to the LP. So apparently there was a paper in Colorado Springs influenced by him, and that paper is actually on newspapers.com. And I'm not going to put up any of those articles. They kind of go off track, but they didn't really ignore her. I actually found references in the Gazette, so I don't know what David Nolan's referring to here. He might be referring to completely ignoring her visit, but there was a lot of back and forth about her, John Hospers, the LP, in particularly the editorial sections of the Gazette. But I did pull some newspaper articles from that time. They're going to be really small here because the way newspapers.com lets you do clippings is kind of weird. But I have them up here on the screen. And I can tell you which ones they're from. If you give me a second here, let me pull up my my desktop so I can look at my notes because it clipped out where they were from. So that first one, oh, I did. I clipped them all out entirely. Well, these are all from Colorado newspapers. Really sorry about that I didn't note where they were from. But you can see, you know, they got some decent coverage. This first one here where it says, Libertarian scheduled one-day conference. This is about the Libertarian Party of Colorado convention, and it mentions that Tony Nathan will be speaking at that conference. I think that's in the fifth paragraph. It says that, and I actually think this middle article was from the Gazette, and talks about us conducting a telephone poll in Colorado Springs. Now, I found this last one interesting. There were Democrats who actually were supporting Pip Boyles, who was the first Libertarian Party Platform Committee chairman. So I thought that was very, very interesting because they were unhappy with the Democrat candidate. So in the beginning, we were pulling from both sides. Now, there is a ton of coverage in 72 for the LP and papers. I mean, I could, maybe one day I will just clip it all and do a show where we just flip through all of the newspaper articles from that time. But the Gazette did not ignore Tony. Not sure what David Nolan was speaking of. But unfortunately, as I said, I could not get that front page article from the Sun. So let's continue where we were at, which was on that first column, last paragraph. And finally to Seattle, where she spent the week of October 22nd through 29th, campaigning long and hard. Washington, along with Colorado, is one of the states where the HN ticket will definitely be on the ballot. Meanwhile, Dr. Hospers has spent every available spare moment speaking in cities up and down the length of California, and that is where he was from. Los Angeles, San Francisco, San Diego, and others. And talking to media reporters, literally dozens of stories have appeared in California papers, and he has been on radio and TV many times. As a result of this exposure and the highly efficient work of California LP leaders Alan Kuhn, Ed Crane, a name familiar to most people, and Bill Sussel, the CLP now has several hundred members and over 1,000 voters registered as libertarians. Interesting. Notice they called the California Party the CLP, which was also what the Colorado Libertarian Party was. Now they are the LPCA, and the Colorado Party's the LPCO. A lot of the early parties they followed the format X state Libertarian Party. So Colorado Libertarian Party, California Libertarian Party. And then over time, this has flipped. And you'll notice that most of the state affiliates are now Libertarian Party of X. For instance, Libertarian Party of California, Libertarian Party of Colorado. Only a few have kept the old way. I can think a few of them would be Wyoming, which is Wyoming Libertarian Party, Arizona Libertarian Party. Alaska has it both ways on some of their documents, but I think they settled on Alaska Libertarian Party. If I'm not mistaken, Montana and Arkansas also do that. There might be one or two others. If anyone is in chat and can think of any, let me know. Was Missouri one of them? Not too sure, but I think there are a few others. But most of them have now gone to the LP of X. And there's a reason for that, at least in Colorado. And I'm assuming this is the reason most of the places. Because on the ballot, you want, when your party name appears, you want the first word they see to be libertarian, not your state, because that won't ring any bells, that won't charge any batteries. So that's why we did that in Colorado, so that it would say libertarian. So just a bit of trivia for you. That was something I had always found fascinating and I had researched. John was also interviewed by AP correspondent Steve Lawrence, and the resulting story, several hundred words and quite objective, was carried by over 200 papers across the country. And I thought I had clipped that out. Let me double check here. Maybe I did not, and that is disappointing if I didn't. Let me see. Aha, I did. I just didn't get it queued up on screen. So give me 1 second here and I will do that. I don't know how I missed queuing this up. 1 sec. Gotta save it. Export as JPEG. Because really the way these clippings do, it makes it really, really tiny. So let me see if I can get that up on the screen. Let me hide this. Okay, I gotta unlock it 1 sec. Okay, let me hide LP News. And let's pull up this Steve Lawrence article. I think this is it. Yeah, that's super tiny though. Let me see if I can make it bigger. Here we go. That's not much bigger, is it? Well, you can see, maybe I will do a bonus episode reading this and trying to get it bigger in Photoshop or something. But this is the column that ran by AP columnist or AP correspondent Steve Lawrence. And I really like the title, John Hosper's Running for an Office He Doesn't Want. I think we'll definitely do a bonus on this, now that I have a couple things I said I wanted to do a bonus on. But let's go back to the LP News. All right, so continuing in that paragraph. The resulting story was carried over 200 papers across the country. He was also mentioned briefly in a story on minority parties, which appeared in Newsweek. I tried to find that, couldn't find it anywhere. Apologies, but just no luck on that yet. If I find it, I will definitely show it to you guys. In fact, the only sour note for the month was the fact that the LP was deliberately excluded from an ABC TV program on minority parties, Issues and Answers, October 8th. This was done deliberately, as ABC had contacted us for information before the program was aired. The only parties included were far-left varieties. Even the practically defunct Socialist Labor Party was included. This double dealing was brought to our attention by Illinois LP Chairman Alan Newman, and many LP members have already protested to ABC and/or the FCC. Dr. Hospers has also been to Phoenix, Arizona in recent weeks, and as of press time, he is scheduled to join Tony in Washington on the weekend of October 28th through 29th to spend the weekend before Election Day in Colorado. Both Hospers and Nathan have stated that they have found libertarians around the country enthusiastic about the LP, and that the party's efforts have been described by many as being responsible for the rejuvenation of the libertarian movement, which was perceived as stagnating until this summer. And then there's that little note. This issue of the newsletter is only 2 pages long because the November issue will be a 6-pager containing full details on the various libertarian candidates' campaigns around the country. So that'll probably be a pretty long episode. Okay, now the progress report. Let's go to the next page, the next and last page. It's under Bits and Pieces. Total LP membership, state and national, is now approximately 1,800, with an additional 1,200 supporters working for LP candidates. We now have members in all but 3 of 50 states, North Dakota, South Dakota, and West Virginia, and have state chairmen in 30 states. Total funds received by the National Party and the Hospers Nathan Campaign Fund have passed the $20,000 mark. Nearly 100,000 pieces of material, including 25,000 copies of the temporary and permanent platforms, have been distributed. At least as much, if not more, has been distributed by the various state parties. The 4 state chairmen who have come in since last month are David Fowler in Arizona, Donald G. Smith in Hawaii, David A. Lizio in Nevada, and K.G. Haroff in Ohio. And suitable for framing. Now here is something I wish I had. It says we now have an 11 by 14 copy of our statement of principles reproduced from a professionally hand-lettered rendering. This is a very handsome item printed on high-quality textured stock. I have the equivalent of the one that is the 1974 Statement of Principles. But I would love to get my hands on one of these ones from the 1972 Statement of Principles. Wouldn't that be freaking fantastic? There might be somebody who has one of them and doesn't realize that it's different. That it's different from the Statement of Principles that's extant today. Now, here's the next one. To save unnecessary trouble, please do not order any of the following items from us. They are out of stock and will be discontinued after the election. The Atlas Shrugged poster, the Who record, Hospers Nathan buttons, Hospers Nathan stickers, McCovern, the Dangerous Decoy, and I could never find a copy of that. I want a copy of that so bad. And all newsletters prior to this one. Interesting. They weren't going to reprint those. But I wanted to show those of you who weren't here for last episode, I do have one of those Hosper's Nathan buttons. Ooh, I think I'm going to sneeze. Ooh. Oh, sorry with this cold. Okay. Copies of Libertarianism paperback should henceforth, nobody uses that word anymore, be ordered directly from the publisher. And the publisher was Reason Magazine at that time. And if you want a copy of Where the Money Went, Willis Stone's expose of bureaucratic boondoggles, and it says to where you can order. We will be stocking new leaflets and other goodies, buttons, stickers, etc. after the election. Says to participate in a survey of libertarians being conducted as background research for an article on the movement to appear in a major national magazine next spring, send a self-addressed stamped envelope to Halifax Survey. And it was in Denver. Get as many LP members as you can to take part so that the LP is well represented. And then there's an ad there that they've reproduced saying, can capitalism survive under Richard Nixon? And it says underneath that, ad to appear in Barron's. The ad shown above reproduced 3/4 size from a paste up, thus the splice marks. I don't see any splice marks, do you? I guess that's what those underlines are. I thought those were just design features. They didn't even have to say they were splice marks. Will be appearing in the October 30th edition of Barron's. I didn't look for that. I will look for that so we can see this ad. A strongly pro-capitalist financial paper that reaches 250,000 people with an average net worth of $250,000. This is costing us $550. Ouch. And any contributions towards allaying that expense will be greatly appreciated. Please indicate that your contribution is for this purpose. Now, this last part is something I want to spend a bit of time on. So, let me get some caffeine in my system. And you guys are awful quiet tonight. I see you, Rhett, and thank you. Thank you for the shout out there. And remember, this is always participatory. I love interacting with comments and we'll always hang out as long as there are comments. So this last part, it says SLAM, which is the Student Libertarian Action Movement. SLAM, new banner, attack LP. Before we read this, I want to show you, I found this picture of a SLAM booth that was going on around that time. So you can see they were quite active on college campuses, and I really liked that picture. So, but let's go back to the LP News here. The Student Libertarian Action Movement and the new banner, which I looked for this issue. I know I always say that, but I try to find all this stuff for you guys. Couldn't find it, but I have a... Excuse me, the soda made me burp. And the new banner have recently issued anti-LP propaganda because SLAM is one of those, I believe they were very anti-political movement. And you know what? Since I'm already going to be doing a bonus on that other article, I've got an article from SLAM that I was going to do with this, but I think I'll save it for a bonus because I like to keep these a little bit shorter, unless there are comments, of course. Is my crown falling off? No. Okay. Okay, calling us impure. So if you think the purity spirals are new, they're not new. And statist. So we were called a bunch of statists. SLAM has at least been courteous enough to allow us to reply to their charges via letters in their publications, New Libertarian Notes. Couldn't find that either, but I think I found a reprint of it, which is what I'm going to do a bonus on. But new banner appears intent upon open warfare. We urge all LP members to refrain from subscribing to New Banner and/or to cancel present subscriptions. New Banner is a poorly written and amateurishly produced paper of little value in any case. Say how you really feel, David Nolan. I want to read a copy of this for myself because I have a feeling you're just a little bit butthurt, but I don't blame you, but I think it's a little hurt of the butt. If anarcho-capitalism is your bag, we would recommend the Libertarian Forum, which is far superior in every respect. Man, I love David. I want to show you, though, as a teaser, which we will do then as a bonus, maybe even tomorrow, because I want to move on to that long November-December issue quite soon. Let me see. I think I have it here. Yeah. Libertarian Party Pro and Con. And I'm pretty sure this was in the New Banner. And it is David Nolan writing to back and forth with Sam Konkin III, who ended up founding, I think, the second iteration of the Radical Caucus, or the first. I don't know. I'll need to look that up because the Radical Caucus is all bound up in this. So yeah, we got plenty of material for a bonus episode. So we'll save that for then. And that is it for this LP News. It was a shorty, a goodie but a shorty, right? Giving you all a few moments in case there are any comments. I know this is kind of late. I had a lot of work to do, but I wanted to do an episode today. Some things that are coming up on the channel. I have a ton, a literal metric shit ton of things on the People's Party to do, because I have to catch up. I've got their January calls and their February calls. It's probably going to be multiple episodes. So if following them is your jam like it is mine, that will be coming up. I have a takedown of the actual Justice Warriors shitty take on Breonna Taylor. I have a little bit of a takedown of a shitty comment that Ben Shapiro made about George Floyd. I've got a bunch of takedowns. I must be like in a bitchy mood or something. And I've got, Jimmy Snow has just driven me crazy enough that I'm doing a little bit of a takedown of him as well. And what else did I have coming up? Oh, I'm still working on that more of a philosophical piece about how does libertarianism handle things like adults with anorexia, meaning, certain mental illnesses that aren't harming anyone else, but they are definitely harming themselves. What is the libertarian answer there? Is there a libertarian answer? So that is also something I want to discuss. And I think that's all I have in the pipeline. It's quite a bit, isn't it? So hope you will come back and check those out. But so now I give you all a warning in case you do not want to hear the begging portion, but here we go. Please like, share, subscribe. It super, super helps me. But also, if you would like me to have more time to do all of these kinds of episodes, to do more with party history, to do more political commentary, you would make my day if you became a patron at that Patreon link on the screen. You can do so for as little as $1 a month, though the average subscriber is $5 a month. I really, really need your support. This takes a lot of time and money on my end, and if you do get some value, please, please consider supporting me. You can make my night tonight by doing that. And for patrons only, we are going through Judge Gray's All Rise book. Okay, that's it, everyone. Have an awesome night.
You gotta take what you're given, that's how we live it. Don't be mad at the system, it's simply how we've existed. I hear a lot of people talking like they politicians and choose to be an accountant because it's safe.